The idea of my internet going down is reflective of so much of what I want to talk about. I have lost electricity twice this week in thunderstorms. We cannot get our TVs downstairs to go on. I mean, there's so many strange difficulties in the technological realm that I do not have a mind to deal with. The people we normally call are apparently on vacation. So there's a kind of disconnect occurring that is emblematic of something much bigger that is happening in my own life, and I don't think it's just my own life. I think something is disconnecting in all of our lives in a very real and I think significant way. And Blanche and I were reading the newspaper this morning, and her specific comment was "oi," and I decided that should be the title of this talk, or I could elaborate it into "oy vey" for all of those of Hebrew descent. This is a very complex time, and I personally am experiencing it on very personal terms, and I suspect all of you are in your own way. And it is potentially extraordinarily transformative. It is also potentially very disruptive and even destructive, as are many forces in the universe. You know, there is survival of the fittest in our world for some reason, and not everybody makes it through, and it seems to be programmed into the system. And in a way, you either choose to be one of the fittest or not, and a lot of that involves your mind. And I want to talk really, if I can, about the mind. Because Rudi said, in a very profound way, that the mind is the slayer of the soul. And that's a very negative idea, but it's also very depictive of what many people do to their connection to themselves, to their soul awareness of life. They overthink it, feel it, talk it, express it in so many ways that are, in a way, undercutting its pure dynamic presence in each of our lives. And I have observed that personally. I've observed it in so many people. Most of us think the mind is here, or third eye, if you will, that the mind is in the head. It's an intellectual entity that thinks, that perceives action, that is directive, that is a force of trying to comprehend the world. But I have to tell you, the mind is not limited to this. This is part of your mind. Your mind is also in your heart. It's an emotional mind. It's the place of love and acceptance and reaching for truth. It's also the place of fear and stress and terror and feeling of despair. There's a mind in your belly, and it's called the intuitive mind. Intuitive mind is the thing that knows stuff that doesn't process necessarily through the head or through your heart. It is a knowing factor, but it can be really stupid, especially if it's very shallow. If your intuitive sense is not deepened into a kind of larger universal knowing, you will make one stupid mistake after another in your life. Your mind will not guide you through it because it doesn't have the informational depth that it needs. It doesn't have the opening. Your heart, when it's only focused on your well-being and your happiness and your pleasure, is too close to the possibility of the guidance that's waiting for you inside, because you are listening to all of the superficial, surfacey elements of the world that talk to everybody and ultimately are way too hard to process and create an enormous amount of disinformation. And so many, many people live their lives in a completely undirected, disorganized, and uncomfortable sort of fashion. The world is connected to your mind. We are not separate from all of that. It is a dialogue. The outer world is part of that dialogue. The inner world is more of an invisible part of that dialogue. And our Western culture, as I've said many times, does not push us into the inner half of that equation, the balancing part of the equation. Mostly we are out there. Mostly we're interacting with a world that is known to be completely changeable. It is a world that evolves in its own way. It predicts one thing, it delivers another. You think you're heading in this direction, suddenly you're off in another direction. Sometimes by your choice, sometimes by its choice. Things happen. Hurricanes happen. Revolutions happen. Elections happen. You go on and on. Things happen. Oh, you have no control over any of that. And you can be endlessly affected by worldly events, or you can find a place of, we'll call it repose, quietude, centering, stillness inside. But it doesn't happen just by chance. You have to make an effort. People in a religious environment will do it through prayer, perhaps. People who people are just products of the outer experience. And part of the outer experience is, as I described, I think at the beginning of this talk, your computer connection going dead, your electrical connection going dead. I read the newspaper today and our articles, I don't know what they're talking about at all. Art, that nothing in my brain that grasps it. I feel like the world is passing me by, but that could be age. A lot of people as they get older feel like, I don't know. My grandson was over the other day at 7.5. He's much more computer literate than I am. He knows how to take care of everything. I do not. And it's not just computers, it's the world around me. It's the oi factor, the world around me. And some of it is more than oi. It's really deeply, deeply saddening and depressing. I spent a month or two in Afghanistan as a young man, traveling through all the cities that are now being reinvaded by the Taliban. I am aware of the suffering that is happening there as though it's suffering for me. I am aware of the young women who have been exposed to the possibility of real education and real equality in society being thrust back into this dominance of a religious male culture that wants to suppress all female activity, that wants men to be only what they determine men should be. It is really pretty horrifying. I watch what's happening in Haiti and the earthquake that's happening and the death and destruction. I don't mean to, just give you a news account. What I'm trying to tell you is the world is and always has been thus. This is the world. How does one react to the world around them? Well, you can turn off the news, maybe. Okay. You can try to look at it and go, God's will, if you can figure out what that will is. You can look at it and go, this is horrifying, and how do I protect myself and hide from everything? Not uncommon. But you can also take this deep dive into, there's all these centers. There's your mind center, your ego center, your heart center, your gut center, your restorative self center in your sexual areas. There is the base of your spine, which integrates energy as it moves up through all these centers. So you become what Rudi called a whole person. So you begin to react to the world with a mind that is integrated from intellect to feeling, to expression, to knowing, to restoration, because you fall away and fall apart over and over and have to recombine in a way. You have to be reborn over and over and over in this world. And the ability to do that is all in your psyche. It's deep inside your psyche. And if you connect to that psyche, you have a mechanism to survive, and you will be part of the survival of the fittest. Why the universe is programmed that way, I don't know. Some very nice people don't survive. And in the end, none of us do. In the end, none of us survive. So what are we doing? Why are we going through all this? Well, I've said this before. I used to have answers to all of that, and I think a lot of you may still have answers to all of that, what this is all for and what it's all about and why. And there's something in you that feels a knowledge base that gives you certitude. I do not have that. I used to have it, but I don't have it. But I have this thing I talk about, which is a kind of, I call it a kind of like a yes to being, and a bowing down to simple being, a giving up of understanding, and an awareness of presence that is so remarkable and beyond human description that all I can do is go so to the whole thing. I've talked about that week by week. I just go so. And it's very powerful. And I know in the deepest part of my being that what we are connected to is, you can give it any name you want, but I like God. I like the God name. I think it's pretty powerful. If that's a problem for you, give it another name. But it's so massive. It's so interactive. It's so part of what we are, if not the essence of what we are, that when you connect to that, it gives you this sense of, you can't talk about it really well because you can hear from my own talk right now. You're diminishing it so much the minute you talk about it. It's becoming just a thing. It's not just a thing. It is what is, what is. And if you stop for 1 minute and look at anything, the ceiling of your room, the windows, the floor, the chair you're sitting in, the body you're inhabiting, the greenery perhaps outside your window, if you look at any of that for 1 second and go, oh my God, then you touch it. You do touch it for a moment. You become deeply aware that you are in a kind of, I like the word holy ground. It's interactive. It's working with you. It is in many ways you itself. You are that, if you will. I am that. It's really powerful, and it is extraordinarily awe-inspiring. On the other hand, it does not remove you from ultimate pain and suffering. So I have been on this 50+ year journey into working with these dynamics, these energies, these incredible awarenesses that keep expanding into something vast beyond any kind of knowing. And I am aware that somewhere in the core of all of that, there is this love, there is this beauty, there is this truth. I talk about it all the time because it's so foundational. It so much arises out of the nothingness that often occurs, often appears to be there. But then you will have, I guess, moments of being tested. Maybe that's survival of the fittest as well. You know, there are moments that go, can you survive this? Can you survive this assault of whatever is coming at you? And I used to think that I was programmed to do it all. So did Buddha, by the way. And Buddha sat under the bo tree, went through a lot of training. And when he was at the final stage of his training, and I may be misrepresenting this, he was tested. He was tested by the power of attraction, that he could go out into the world and become a great teacher and be known and be rich and wealthy. And he was already a prince, so he had a taste of that stuff. And he said, no. Then they came at him with demons, threatening the worst terrible tortures and horrible, horrible stuff, which I suspect they actually began to direct at him, so that it was not just an idea of all that, but it was an actual sensation of unbelievable pain and suffering. And I believe he went, nope. And he found his still point in the middle of it. He came out of this extraordinary series of tests free on some level. I don't think it's free of having pain or free of attraction to joy and beauty and love. I think he was just in the middle of it all. He was in that middle zone that went, he wasn't holding on to one, he wasn't running from the other. He found this really beautiful balance. And I can't really speak for Buddha, but I can tell you the teaching that emerged from all of what he went through was so simple. And again, I have repeated it weekly, and I'm going to repeat it to the end of my life. Be a good, kind, nice person. Love others as yourself. He wasn't the only one to say that. Jesus said that as well. Interesting that our great teachers seem to focus on the other as self and loving other as self. That is, I think, as deep as it gets. I come to all this after a very strange week, and I know I personalize these things a lot, and you can all sign off if you want to listen to my horror stories of doctors and stuff, and I get it. And you don't have to, you can all click off now if you want. But I had a visit with my surgeon this week and a visit with a pain doctor. And what came out of it was, in a bodily sense and in a mind sense, so these parts of my psyche, my head and my heart and my gut, were set off into a lot of fear and pain. The reports were alarming that my spinal system is not doing well, and that they are concerned about that. I don't need to give you all the elements in it, but there's a lot of physical pain. They are going to give me a shot on Thursday that may eliminate the pain. And if they do, they will have at least figured out where the source of the pain is, since there are probably 7 or 8 possible sources that they can't figure out which is causing what. So we're going to start with this one thing called L23. And I'll get a shot and I'll see what happens. The real problem, according to the surgeon, is not the pain, but that my left leg is not, I can't lift it up the way I used to, with the same as my right leg. So I'm not walking the way I used to walk. I cannot go on long walks. I cannot stand for long times. I cannot sit for long times. And it's going to get worse. And he's concerned about the possibility of falling, and gives facts like 35% of people who fall die. And, I mean, I think he's selling surgery in a way, which is not unusual. Surgeons would do that. I'm paying attention, however, because I am feeling all of this dispersion. And I was taking a pill a series of pills. It's called prednisone, a very high level of dosage. And it takes away the pain, but then it gives you a whole other panoply of pains, which I was like, why would I trade one set of pain for another? I don't know. But it did one other thing, which I will mention just because I think it ties into this. It gave me a psychotic break in the middle of the night. I went psychotic. I had never gone psychotic. My brain just started attacking me on every level, from fear to mind to gut, every attack that could happen. My apologies for the interruptions. I don't know why my internet is going out. If it goes out again, trust me, it is part of a larger systematic experience that I'm having that reflects completely the inside with the outside. It is beyond uncomfortable, but not unexpected. And for me right now, and what it means mostly is be present, be available to the what is, and go forward. I do not know why this is all going on, except that I have a choice. I can be angry and hostile to the world, or I can go. Right now, it's about coming back, continuing this dialogue, or hardly a dialogue, but my my motor mouth expression of what is happening in my life. I appreciate those of you who have stayed around. I find it hard to believe that you haven't just clicked off. But what I'm trying to get at, and I think it's really important, is, I sort of talked about it last week with the title of a talk that was Apocalyptic Spirituality. Something is going on atmospherically. It is not just for me. I'm sensing it for everyone who talks to me, that the world around us right now is not the world we remember, the world we love, the world as we would like it to be. It is a complex moment in human history, and it is not a bright future at all. The one thing that brightens the future for me right at the moment is that my grandson slept over the other night, and we just started talking. And I ended up talking pretty much what I'm saying to you guys, and I gave him the introductory class to this practice we do without ever once mentioning it as an introductory class or anything. I just told him about how one can go in when one wants to be able to balance out their relationship to the outer. And he totally understood at 7.5 what I was talking about. He completely got it. And I knew I planted a seed, and I knew I planted it in fertile ground. And I don't know what more to say. I mean, I love this little boy so much. You know, he used to be Elijah. He's now Eli, according to his own choice. And he is full of potential in this world, as maybe every child is, but he happens to be the one who slept over at my house on Friday night, actually. And I shared all this with him. And I know the world is full of these remarkable people. Tara has one of them named Grace, and she's part of this. My granddaughter, Talia, you probably all have others as well, people you know who are the future of this world. That's very meaningful to me. I know Buddha went out to teach the masses, and they all codified everything he said into do this, do that, do this, do that. And mostly it's a way of a panacea. It's a way of trying to find a place of peace and joy in yourself and feel good about yourself. It's not about that. It's to eliminate this separateness of you and it and just be one with all there is and find your way into that. When I was in the midst of this psychotic episode, which I was talking about when the internet went dead, there was nothing spiritual that I could go to, nothing except shut up to this stupidity of the outer. Shut up. And it listened. I have to say, I made it through the night. I didn't think I would. It was so horrifying. And I understood Buddha in a way that I never understood Buddha. You know, and I've talked about Christ on the cross, so I also know, you know, unrelenting pain is something spiritual life does not get you through, I don't think. And if it does, blessings and congratulations and all of that. I think mostly spiritual life leads you to the door of the what is. And my reaction to pain and all of this stuff is an opening deeper than I've ever gone before. I don't know what that means. And I can share that opening with you as an act of love. It doesn't matter whether you understand it or don't understand it. It is penetrating into a place that will serve. The people who need to hear this will hear it in their own way, and they will begin to interact with the world as loving, kind beings. And when I've gone into the city now 4 times in the last 2 weeks, I have watched this thing work, and it is amazing. It is amazing. Every little tiny thing you give to the cab driver, everything you give to the waitress, it just goes out. And my cab driver the other day, he was telling me how much he loves Rumi. How does my cab driver know Rumi and the poetry of Rumi? I didn't know. I don't remember if I told you about going to the doctor and having, you know, waiting with another woman I didn't really know when we were standing with no cabs coming. And I asked if she would go with me and we could share the cab. And she said, oh, of course, okay. And then a cab came immediately and we were going to the same place. I don't know how those things happen, but the universe just kind of gives you these little notes that's saying, you're doing fine, keep it going, keep it going. That is all I know. It's all I know. The fact that I got through that psychosis the other night is amazing. I stopped the medication immediately. It was having horrible effects. I'm diabetic, and it just sent my my sugar levels way through the roof, and then it created neuropathy in my feet. So I have just this pain that just is awful. And you don't have to write me notes, and you don't have to say, oh, we feel sorry for you. I really am not looking for that. I'm just trying to explain that when the universe decides to go after you in its way, you can look at it as punishment and misery, or you can look at it as shut up and stay very, very still, and then watch this new level of awareness, compassion, and opening happen for the whole human race, and all of what's happening in this singularity of our collective being. At some point, everyone's going to go through what I'm talking about. Most people are doing this. Some people are turning off these talks that I'm giving because, hey, just go, I can't handle all of this crap. I get it. But I keep wondering, what if Rudi had been talking to me like this? My sense is I would have paid deep attention, because I knew he was further down the road than I was, and he had an incredible knowledge base of experience in the universe. Rudi was about to enter his third operation after being kicked down a flight of stairs by his mother or father, I don't remember, as an 8-year-old. Having to face the third operation, he ran into the field saying, I'm not going to have another operation. And these Tibetans, whether they were physical, material, or immaterial, approached him and they said, have the operation. You need this operation because it is going to inform the rest of your spiritual life. And he said, as an 8-year-old, okay. And he did that. I'm a 78-year-old. I'm learning at a much slower pace, but I am learning and learning. What I'm learning is hard to articulate, except that we are all on this unbelievable journey together. And we can be there for one another, or we can be against one another. And we see a world filled with that, more than we ever imagined, the for and the against. How do we handle that? Mostly, you handle it with love and acceptance. You're not going to change everybody. You're not going to make it different. But you will, as you take all this energy, go deeper and deeper and deeper into your awareness of And that's all you get. I don't know how to describe it. Just I walked this morning, went for a walk, and there's a field I've never been able to get into. And last week, in the background, you probably heard them mowing this field, or haying, I guess they call it. And for the first time, there was an opening into that field. And it never was there before, I guess, because the people who mowed it. And I walked up onto this hill just filled with these bales of hay that were like 4 feet, 5 feet tall, photographically, imagistically beautiful. And I just went on this adventure up onto this big hill I'd never been on before. And I felt like I was exploring another world. It was so exquisite. And all of the symmetry and the movement and the placement of all of these round spheres that were so lovely. And I just went like, I don't know where I am or why I'm here or what this is or why I'm led into exploring this part of the world, but it made me feel so connected. And I knew whatever that was going to be in this talk today. You tell me about bales of hay and hillsides and talks. I have no idea how they align, but they do. It just opened me up to the unknown, the unexplored. It comes back into you, and you then share that with everyone around you. And so our goal, the few people who want to hear this, is be a good person. Take this out into the world. There are mysteries beyond mysteries. There's pain beyond pain. There's confusion beyond confusion. It shouldn't be like this, but it is, and it's better than you ever imagined, and it's worse than you imagined. It's all of the above. You are one with that. And if you find your way into a so, you will have achieved something that Buddha talked about, which is profound, simple goodness, kindness, gratitude for being, and compassion for everyone who's caught in this universe with us. And not only people. I was just reading the New York Times this morning about the animals that we are causing to suffer, and through our own worldly stupidity and all the stuff that, of course, we're doing to the planet. And what can you do? What can you do? I'm telling you, you can sign petitions, you can send money, yeah, you can do all that. Be a good person. Help the people who are struggling through this. Be loving to those around you. Be a source of nourishment, of attention, of consciousness, of allowing people to be who they are. Don't try to change anybody. This whole teaching thing has really been interesting for me because I always want to change everybody. I don't want to change you. I don't want to change anybody at all. You are exactly who you are because of the need for you to be who you are. And I honor that. I love that. I love who you are. I know every one of us is fucked up in a way and messed up, and all these things are going on, that make us less than what we think of as perfect. But it's not true. You are perfect. You make stupid choices. You live strangely. You have these issues. Everybody in this world has all of that. Should you not love them for that? Should you try to correct it? No. Empathy, kindness. We're all going through this. This is hard stuff. And none of us know why we're here. We don't know what it's for, what its purpose is. But I will tell you, I do sense something that is lifting us up, bringing us to greater and greater awareness of what and who we are. And if you want to call it God, or you want to call it presence, and you want to call it life, or you want to call it, samsara, I mean, nirvana, whatever, I don't care, whatever you name it anymore. I just care that you start to glimpse it and give yourself over to it because you can. And in this lifetime, the opportunity to do that is so remarkable and so rarely chosen, so rarely even made available. And each of you has had it made available. You're hearing this talk, which means it's available. And there's nothing I can give you other than this love. And there's something in the transmission that Rudi taught, which was this Shakti pot, which kind of knows how to enter into you a little bit. And it knows how to fix things, adjust them, little adjustments. They're tiny. It knows how to do that. So you're benefiting from that. But in the end, you're not benefiting if you don't do it. You don't do the work, forget it. It's just I've wasted my time, but I don't care. I don't care. Why should I care? I'm just doing what I'm told. And what I'm told to do is love you, nurture you, feed you, fix things where I can, be available to you, and let you know that you are loved. One of the things I am most bothered by in the last several months is the lack of what I call having an advocate. I don't have anybody out there anymore who can make things work. One doctor doesn't know another doctor. They can't make this phone call. They can't do that. My computer system trying to sign on to the healthcare system that I'm supposed to be part of is totally non-functional. I have no idea why. Nobody I know, my son is too busy to come over and fix it for me. And I get that. I don't want him to lose his career over my trying to sign on to a healthcare system. But the insanity of all of that, there's no advocate except this. And that advocate is your stillness. And the time you know you're in good hands is you get in a cab and the cab driver starts quoting Rumi. And you go, oh, okay, thank you. That's it. I don't know anything else, And I keep saying, should I keep giving these talks? I'm getting these very strong feelings that I may not be around for a long time, which may not be true. And it may not be physical. It may be something else. It may be spiritual, and it could be just, like I've said before, Alzheimer's. One way or another, I'm hoping each one of these talks has enough energy in it to last or outlast my presence here. I would like each of you to be left with something you can go back and listen to again that might actually be meaningful down the road. That would make me feel like this was worth it. And I do feel that it's worth it. So before the internet cuts out again, which could happen at any second here, let me end this. Well, I'll ask for questions, but let me end my part of the talk with saying that my gratitude for who you are is beyond probably any gratitude you have for who you are. And if you could absorb some of that gratitude and know how deeply you're loved and cared for and embraced, not by me, not by the Bruce thing, but by this thing that's speaking and talking and moving through this. You are loved as you are absolutely at this moment. That's all I want you to know. you are loved and embraced, and there is survival of the fittest. And if you want to survive this, you're going to have to do some work, and that work will be interior, not just exterior. And if you do the work, you'll survive in some way until you don't, because at some point you won't. And at that point, hopefully you'll be at the point of going, okay, awesome. That's it. That's the talk, and all these different parts and segments, and Arkady will hopefully put them together in some way that it won't look totally disruptive. But does anybody who's still here have a question about any of this? Go forward, Michael.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you for being here today. Very grateful. I find myself lately dealing with a lot of anger, and I could go on and on about what that is. One example, oil company executives, you know, have been hiding this data for information for decades. You know about that, I'm sure. So, and that anger extends to, you know, the COVID and to lots of other things going on in this world. And it overcomes me. You know, I get, my mind starts to go and go and go. And it takes me a ton of energy just to stop that flow of anger in the world about what's going on in the world. And I am wondering if you experience that. What, you know, I come back to my center. I often say, please help me let go, please help me let go, and try to refocus, and that then it starts to dissipate, but then it shows up again. You know, it's just like ongoing fight.
Over and over and over and over. And it will. The world makes a big effort at making us angry. There's a lot of stuff out there that is bad. It starts with the word evil. You know, there's evil in the world. There's selfishness. There's me over you. There's give me, money. You know, I mean, it goes on and on. There comes a point where you go, I can't do a lot about affecting that in the bigger sense. You know, you go on marches. I've described this before. You go on peace marches, and everyone on the peace march is angry. Mm-hmm. You go, what am I doing with this mob of angry people? And you start to withdraw. And you do start to ask for help, which was Rudi's key guidance. Ask for help to surrender. There's only so much you can do, but there are people in your life that you can be good to who are going through probably almost exactly what you're going through, more and more and more everywhere, because right now, this is that awful oy vey time in the universe. And it's not going to get better quickly. The only thing that will help us is little moments of grace, little moments of kindness that we can share that will actually reflect back. And you will start to get this sense that you are serving a larger force by being a force for good in the world. A force for good does not mean becoming president of the United States. If that happens to be your thing, good luck. But if it's not your thing, do the thing that you can do that's in front of you. But spending time in anger, spending time in beating yourself up or beating anything up because of what the world is not productive. In the end, it's very destructive. In the end, it goes with the mind and the heart and the gut, and all these things get out of whack, and you're the victim of that. In terms of survival of the fittest, that will not be a directive to survival. That's a directive to great unhappiness and misery and illness and a lot of other very difficult things that come as you move toward end of life things, which I happen to be doing. And it's really a different perspective. And also the perspective shifts very quickly. Suddenly you're a healthy person, and you're not a healthy person. Boom. And how did that happen? Well, years of anger, years of tearing yourself apart finally rips you in half or in many pieces. And you don't want that. If you can avoid that by going, okay, this is how it is. I don't like it. But what can I do that allows me to have a peaceful center and to see the thing from which all of this goodness and this evil expresses itself? Where does it come from? What is it? Not in an analytical way, but just in a experiential way. See what it is. What can you do to find the place that makes it easier for yourself and then for ourself, for everyone? And you can do that. And you, I know you have a great capacity for help. You can be a great gift to people. And You can write about this if you want, or make movies about it, dispassionately, clearly thought. If you think your anger is going to help other people be motivated by that, well, maybe use it then for that, rather than have it just eat you alive, let it express itself. But if you're just going to get a lot of people angry, I mean, look, we have to save the world. So maybe anger, maybe anger is the force that will do that. Or maybe it's love. I can't give you the answer to that, but I can tell you that my anger at this moment in time, other than at a ballot box and where I make donations to people who I think can try to be of help, I don't know what else to do with that anger other than quiet it down and be a voice of calm and presence. And that's what I'm trying to do, even when it attacks me and makes me suffer, which it does, and which it will do to everyone. I am sorry to announce that, but it will do that. And if you have some capacity inside to do this shut up thing to your mind, which you said you were doing, that will help. It will bring you back for a moment. And then you got to do it again. And then you go, why do I have to do it again? But that doesn't help, because then you just build up more hostility. So you just find the place and find a way more and more simply that gets you there. And I will tell you the mechanism I have found for me, and it's very simple, is I take my thumb and my forefinger and I just touch them. And I feel in touch with me, with life, with the universe. And then, as I've described before, when I open that space, the touch experience doesn't go away. I feel in touch with everything. Stupid little nothing, but why do Buddhas and everybody sit like this? Why do they do that? It works. And then if you don't want to have to go through a battle every time, you just go like that. Or aso. Aso. And aso has a kind of, for me, has fingers thumb together. You can go aso like this. It's kind of helpful. But this is really open to the what is. And yes, it's worth it. If you don't do it, yes, you experience the endless battle, fear zone, anger, hostility, which is where a lot of people live, and more and more and more people right now are living in that space. And the world is not getting easier. It's not getting more clarified at all. It's getting darker in a way. What do? Find your center. Go deep. Okay? Anybody else? Okay, I know this has gone on forever and ever. I love you guys. Anybody needs to talk privately or reach out, I'm here. We'll keep this going until until I have that operation that'll break down things for a little bit of time, and I'll let you know when that happens. But right now, I love all of you so much. Thank you for being here. See you. Talk to you soon.